Hey, what's up, retro gaming fans? Welcome back to Gamer for Fun. Today, we're diving deep into a handheld that's making waves in the retro gaming community, the Powkiddy RGB20SX. It's compact, affordable, and promises to deliver that sweet nostalgia we crave. But does it really live up to the hype? Well, we're about to find out. Stick around because trust me, you're not going to want to miss this. Now, first impressions, this thing is small. Like, it can easily fit in your pocket, which is awesome for on-the-go gaming. The build quality is plastic, but it doesn't feel cheap. There's a nice bit of heft to it, and the buttons? They actually feel pretty decent. I really like the placement of the analog sticks. They're not too cramped, and the D-pad seems responsive enough for those precise retro games. Let's talk specs. Under the hood, the RGB20SX is running a quad-core ARM Cortex-A35 processor paired with 1 GB of RAM. It comes with a 3.5-inch IPS display, which is honestly a sweet spot for retro gaming. Nice and crisp. You get 32 GB of onboard storage, but of course you can expand that with a micro SD card. And trust me, you'll need that space for all your ROMs. As for the operating system, it runs on Linux-based firmware, and it's packed with pre-installed emulators. You got everything from NES, SNES, Sega Genesis, to even PlayStation 1 and N64. It's like carrying a mini retro arcade in your pocket. Alright, time for the main event. How does it actually perform? Well, let's start with the classics. Running NES and SNES games on this thing is buttery smooth. I tested out Super Mario World and The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, and it handled them perfectly. No lag, no frame drops, just good OL retro magic. But let's crank it up a bit. How about PlayStation 1? I threw Crash Bandicoot and Final Fantasy VII at it, and I was pleasantly surprised. The emulation is solid, and even 3D games run without a hitch. Now, N64 is where things get a bit tricky. I tried Mario Kart 64, and while it's mostly playable, you'll notice some minor frame drops here and there, especially in the more intense scenes. As for the controls, the buttons are responsive, and the D-pad feels great for 2D games. The analog sticks, they're decent, but not perfect. They're fine for PS1 games, but not as precise as you'd want for something like GoldenEye 007 on N64. Now let's talk display. The 3.5-inch IPS screen, it's vibrant with great colors and sharpness for retro games. Whether you're playing pixel-perfect 2D games or those blocky PS1 classics, the display holds up. It's not OLED or anything, but for a budget handheld, it's more than enough. As for audio, the speakers, they get the job done, but nothing to write home about. It can get a bit tinny at higher volumes, so if you're picky about sound, I'd recommend using the headphone jack or even Bluetooth headphones. Battery life on the RGB20SX? Pretty decent. It's packing a 3,500 milliamp hours battery, and on average, I got about 5 to 6 hours of gameplay, depending on what I was running. Lower-end games like SNES and NES, they'll give you longer playtime. But once you start running PlayStation or N64, it'll drain a bit quicker. Charging takes around 2 hours, so it's not too bad. And the good news? You can play while it's charging without any noticeable heat issues. Alright, let's break it down with some pros and cons. Pros. Great emulation for most systems up to PS1. Compact and portable design. Affordable for what you're getting. Decent battery life. Cons. N64 emulation could be better. Audio quality is just okay. Analog sticks could use some improvement. So, is it perfect? No. But for under 100 bucks, it's hard to complain. If you're looking for a retro handheld that can handle most of your favorite classics without breaking the bank, the Powkiddy RGB20SX, it's definitely worth considering. In the end, the Powkiddy RGB20SX is a fantastic little device for retro gaming fans. It's portable, powerful enough for most systems, and won't burn a hole in your pocket. If you've been on the fence about picking one up, I'd say go for it, especially if you're a fan of 2D classics. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to Gamer4Fun for more retro gaming reviews, tips, and gameplay. Drop a comment below on what handheld or retro console you want me to review next. Until next time, keep gaming and stay retro.